Hey, it's Anfa, and you're watching a LibreAudio quarterly release pact Q4 update of 2020. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Is everything good? It seems like I should have audio and video and even my t-shirt. Alrighty, seems everything is fine. I see there's 16 people watching. Actually more, 17. Welcome. This is a live transmission. No editing. Okay, let's get to the bone. Or to the meat, rather. So, there's a new website that hosts the updates about audio software releases, free and open source audio software releases. And the address is libreav.org/updates, I guess. Or just go to libreav.org and hit the updates button on top. Now, there's a filter here. You can specify the time window from which you want to display the releases. And the quarterly release pact, if you don't know, is an agreement in the open source audio software community, software development community, to release some software updates, fix some bugs, do at least minimum changes, actually, of course, like positive changes, like improvements to the software, and make a release to let people know that, hey, this software project is alive. We are doing something. We're changing things. We're updating things. We're fixing bugs. We're adding new features. So it's an agreement to motivate developers to release more often, especially if these developers tend to release once a year, and then for the whole 12 months, you're wondering, is this project still alive even? Like, So that's that. This is a quarterly release pact. And on the libreav.org website, there's releases listed. So I'm going to cover all of these that happened in roughly in the middle of October, because that's when this Q4 quarterly release pact is going on. The ideal date is 15th, so actually precisely the middle of the month, but you can release a few days early or a few days late and you still count in this window. Alrighty. First up is Liquid SFZ 0.2.1. And Liquid SFZ is a plugin that plays SFZ sampled instruments. I have used Liquid SFZ a little bit because I'm using SFZ sampled instruments, Libre resources licensed under CC0 or in public domain or stuff like that to make orchestral music, because, well, you can't really synthesize. You can't easily, at least easily, you can synthesize an orchestral piece that will be convincing. Of course, you can convey the theme, the mood, and the nature of the music, but it's still going to sound synthetic, at least partially, because there's so much tiny detail in the real acoustic instruments and performances that it's really important to have sampled instruments for that. Anyway, Liquid's SFZ is a plugin that you can use to play them. I've heard that Liquid SFZ loads all the samples required to play the instrument into memory. So it can be memory intensive. But we have another SFZ playing plugin on this list today that does something different. And I'll cover this when we get to it. So that's Liquid SFZ. Next up, we have a new release of Jack. Actually, there were two releases. And there's quite a lot of new changes. And I think that an exciting thing for Windows users is that there's new releases for Windows, and I've seen a lot of fixes regarding Windows. and also Mac OS. So we can read that Jack 1.9.16 is a quick fix release after 1.9.15, which had some problems. And the most interesting stuff we can read here is that there is now automated builds for macOS and Windows. And they've increased the number of maximum clients and ports. Clients is basically programs that run in Jack, and ports is, well, the connection pins, inputs and outputs for each program. Now, Jack Session was a session management program, and it was deprecated, and now NSM is to be used instead. NSM is the non-session manager protocol, so a new implementation. I believe the library is now called New Session Manager, which is a fork of the original project due to some difficulties in working with the original developer. Write Windows registry key. Yeah, that sounds nice. And if you go to jackaudio.org and go to downloads, you will see that now there's OS X downloads and Windows downloads, and there's installers for 32 and 64 bits, as well as source code available. Now, some time ago, I've had a lot of questions about Jack, Jack running on Windows and why there are no downloads. And indeed, temporarily, the Windows builds were not available, but they are now. And since the building system is now automated, these are going to be on par with the Linux versions. So all the new fixes and features are going to be there. And yeah, maybe I could even try using running Jack on my Windows system. It's a system I use for work. Actually, I don't own a Windows machine at home, but I have a machine at work which I do some audio stuff on Windows. But I haven't used Jack there. Yep. So that's Jack. Liquid SFZ. Yep. Next up is Python RT-MIDI 1.4.6. And this is by Chris Arndt, known as Spotlight Kid in the community. And I've seen him around on the Rocket Chat or Discord server. And I think this is some library for programmers to work with MIDI in Python. Not super interested in this stuff. Let's focus on the more sound making software. Next up, we have Sfizz 0.5.0, and this is going to be interesting. By Jean-Pierre Simalando and Paul Ferrand. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. So Sfizz is a cross-platform SFZ parser and rendering library, LV2 plugin, and VST3 plugin. And basically, Sfizz is a plugin that allows you to play SFZ sampled instruments. And it's a very nice one. How it differs from Liquid SFZ, I think, mostly is that it's disk streaming. So it's like caching the sound files and reading them from the disk when they are needed, instead of storing everything in RAM, which is way more resourceful with memory, but of course it's gonna require some hard disk operation. However, I've never had any performance problems with it. And what they've added is flexible envelope generators, modulation sources, added basic support for LFOs. Envelope generators and LFOs can now target EQs and filters. A new GUI has been added, and it's coming to the LV2 and VST plugin. Oh, it's common. Okay, so it's the same GUI. Yeah, that's a big one. And I actually wanted to show you this, though I had some trouble because, well, I'm running this in Carla. This is my live performance setup, but I'm going to add it here. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, so maybe you can even hear some sounds. Let's route this out to... All right, yeah, I'm playing it. So, here is the new GUI for Sfizz. Hey, nice one. By the way, I designed this logo for them. I think it came out great. So by default, Sfizz plays a sine wave instrument, but we can load up any instrument we want. I have named my folder on disk sound fonts, even though sound font is only referring to the SF2 format. It's a brand name, and SFZs are not sound fonts. Let's find something. Maybe I want all strings, section performance. Yay! So I'm playing on my MIDI keyboard. You can see in Carla here, the keys light up. And here we have double basses. It works. What you can do is, well, you have this home tab and you have some information about the instrument loaded. There are some controls. I think they're not yet implemented perfectly. It's just, I think this is like to be implemented, because I loaded a few instruments. I'd never seen anything come up here. And there's settings for the synthesizer engine. Polyphony is how many voices can play. When playing some patches, I actually... Yeah, you can hear these sounds are stopping. It's because I'm exceeding the limit of voices, but we can rise it up. This is torture testing. You can see the number of voices right here, and basically if you play a lot of notes at once, they are all going to decay or release and overlay on top of each other. That's a lot of sounds to sum together. So it comes, by default, it's going with 64 voices, and then we have oversampling. Now, this changes the internal sampling rate at which the synthesizer is working. And of course, ×1 is the sound server sampling rate, or the host sampling rate. ×2 is twice that, etc., which helps eliminate any aliasing that could be a result of pitch shifting the samples and some other processing, because SFZ is not just for playing samples. There is a lot of different things possible. Actually, you can build synthesizers in it. And the most incredible thing about the SFZ format is that it's plain text, and it's so easy to just make a basic instrument that you just look up a website SFZ tutorial, and you just write some text and you put some sound files into the folder with that text file. You name it .sfz, you load it in. And also Sfizz supports hot reloading, so it automatically watches if the instrument you're making or loaded has changed, and if it detects that it changed, it will automatically reload it and update the sound. So you can have a MIDI loop playing your instrument, and you can tweak the text file defining the instrument, and Sfizz will automatically update that. However, I've tried this oversampling, and it caused some weird glitches, so I think it's a little bit buggy still, so be careful with that. Now, there's preload size, and I think this is... I believe that a Sfizz to work has to load at least a short amount of every sound file that it's going to play. Because when you hit a note, it has to play it back immediately before it can query the hard drive and say, hey, I need that file now. So I think what it does is it's preloading all the small chunks of all the samples, and while it has all that in the memory, it can use it right away, And in that time, when it's playing it from the memory, it can say to disk, oh, give me that sample now. So it never stutters. I actually don't know how it works in the inside, but probably if you have like slow disk, you can raise this and have it stutter less or something. I never had it stutter unless I play way too much sounds. And next we have tuning, which you can load a tuning file. So, oh, actually, that's funny. This is the logo. Hey, it's my work, my design. Alpha design. Yep, you can also change the root key, change the frequency tuning, and there's also stretching. I don't know, never tried this. Yay. It also allows you to edit file. I never pressed this. It may crash everything. Oh, it didn't. It opened a text editor. Oh, and here you can see a basic SFZ file. So all of this is a comment, and it's grayed out, and there is something defining control. There's a group. The simplest SFZ sample is SFZ instrument is just one line which says that you want to play this wave file or something else. And then you can slowly add layers and layers and like more information. And I actually used SFZ and Sfizz to play randomized sound effects because for a game trailer, I had like I had to add sound effects for a scene where a machine gun was shooting and hitting some terrain, and the game had multiple different sound effects that could possibly play when a bullet hits ground or a wall. So these were randomized. So instead of loading all of these sound files into my Ardor session and placing them manually and randomizing them manually, I just whipped up a very simple SFZ file that would play the sample randomly every time. And I just let it do the randomization, which worked perfectly and saved me a lot of time. SFZ is awesome. Sfizz is awesome. I'm really happy to see this plugin being developed because we really do need a great open source sampler or a SFZ player. There is an instrument called Sforzando, but it's not open source. And Sfizz is the only thing we have which is really open source, and I think that's great. So I highly recommend you check out Sfizz and give the developers a hug. Alrighty, let's go to the next thing. Jack Mixer -14. I don't know if that's a real version number. By Frédéric Peter et al. I don't know how to read this. Okay, I haven't used Jack Mixer in a while. Let's see if that's something. Oh, it's version -14. Interesting. Oh, K20 and K14 scales. Nice. That's good. I'm actually using the K20 system, and I've calibrated my headphones and my monitor speakers. I don't have like a special equipment, but I've read the references. It's like you should be able to speak and have a regular conversation when the sound is playing, and I just calibrated it to that, and then I marked my headphone knobs and monitor gain knobs or volume knobs with the levels, and I'm using K20 to mix, which is helpful. When it sounds too loud, it is too loud. When it sounds too quiet, it is too quiet. That's very good. You can trust your ears better. Alrighty. Next, we have Carla. There's a release announcement. I see. Carla 2.2, released on October 12th, sorry. This is the announcement for the Virtual Carla host. If you don't know, Carla is fully featured cross-platform audio plugin, which can also run as a plugin. Ah yes, this release announcement comes quite a few days after I was initially tagged and builds uploaded. I moved to a different place, everything got a bit delayed with that, and also me getting a small but well-needed break. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Contrary to previous releases, there are no many graphical changes this time, but lots of stuff under the hood. One very important note for developers is that the native API to access the Carla as plugin, as used by LMS, is still API and API-wise backwards compatible with 2.0, but the ABI and API of Carla is I'm not a developer, sorry. And I don't think you are a developer too. That's a huge graph. My goodness. Holy cow. How did you not get lost in this? Wow. Wow, this is really huge. Okay, my Carla graph isn't that big. It's only this big. This is my live streaming setup. Alrighty. And last but not least is Mamba 1.6 release by Herman Mayer. And Mamba is a virtual MIDI keyboard and MIDI live looper for jack audio connection kit. All right. And I've actually got Mamba installed to show you how it works. It looks pretty nice. And it's a virtual keyboard. What we can do is connect it to jack input and jack output. Oh, can't really connect it. Also input. Oh. Oh, we can have it monitor or visualize my keyboard, my physical keyboard input. Yeah, I don't know what it does too much. There's looping involved. There's a built-in fluid synth, which is playing sound fonts. That is SF2 sounds, not SFZs. And some other stuff. I don't know. Haven't used it much, but maybe you'll find it very useful. And that's all the releases I wanted to cover in this live stream. Now, if we reset this, we can see quite a lot more releases that happened outside of the given time frame. And a few things I haven't mentioned before is Z-Rhythm has got a 1.0 alpha release. Actually, a couple of these. You can see Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Alpha 4. I haven't actually tested it yet. Didn't have much time to do that. Caesar CJ says, "Hi Alpha." Hi Caesar. Avet Cesar. Although I'm going to be flagged for... Oh no. Oh, you can make a joke these days. Wow. Yeah, so Z-Rhythm got a 1.0 release recently. Also OpenMPT, not MTP, MPT. Now the funny thing, actually my first ever album that I've released, published, made, was made with OpenMPT, which is mod plug tracker. It's a tracker, and it was way before I used Linux. So, no, actually, I was running Ubuntu when I finished it. I started this album on Windows, I believe, Windows XP, and then I switched to Ubuntu 7.04 or something like that, and I finished it through running OpenMPT in Wine. Yeah. I wonder if they have Linux builds available. If you are into trackers, OpenMPT is probably one of the most decent ones. Okay, so it runs on Windows 7 or Wine 1.8 or newer. Okay, so they don't build for Linux, but they do consider Wine as a target. That's interesting. Yeah. So after I've made this album with OpenMPT, I found about LMMS, and my next albums up to now all have been released. All my released albums have been made with LMMS. There's also Jamulus, which has released a version 3.5.12, and it seems to be a real-time jam session over the internet tool. And I would like to get into that and maybe look into how it works. What is it? Because that sounds interesting. I haven't run it. I don't know how to run it or how to use it, but it could be interesting. So here we have Jamulus. Oh, there's a build for Android? Jamulus is open source software and runs under Windows, macOS, and Linux. It's based on the Qt framework and uses the Opus audio codec. That's a good choice because Opus is the best thing for audio via network. It can have extremely low latency. Compilation contribution. Are there Linux builds available, or is it only going to be source files? Source code. Okay, so we would need to build it unless someone has built it for us already. And for that reason, I'm gonna check out my software manager, Octopi, and I'm gonna type in Jamulus. All right, so it seems the default Manjaro repositories don't have anything, but the Arch user repository does. Internet Jam Session software. Okay, I may check this out sometime. Yay. All right, that's all I wanted to show you today. I want to tell you that I am in the middle of editing the Ardor MIDI tutorial, the complete Ardor MIDI tutorial, and I'm thinking about maybe releasing the progress in chunks to the Patreon subscribers, supporters, as like early access. And then after it's all done, I will also factor in some feedback from the viewers there and release a final version complete in one huge video, which would probably last like, I think this is going to be like 2 to 3 hours long, because I'm already at 20 minutes and I haven't even processed my footage from one day. And I've had 5 days of recording. Of course, every day had different amount of footage recorded, but there's a lot of work, and I wouldn't want you to keep you waiting for another 3 months before I finish that project. So I thought maybe I'll release it in chunks for patrons, so that also they see that I'm doing work and not just slacking off all the time, drinking coffee and that and such stuff. Lifeline says, video in the length of a movie. Wow. Yeah, you probably could just go to cinema and watch it. I think I also have some pretty decent jokes in that video already. In the first 20 minutes, there's like 3 jokes, and I think at least 2 are really decent. So I hope it's going to be also entertaining and not just extra dry and unwatchable, because that's not the point. Alrighty. I'll cut it short here. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for coming to see this live. There's 50 people watching. Wow, I didn't expect that. I hope you get excited for new... Which window? Wait a minute. Which browser? Oh, that's the No, that's not the Which browser window? Okay. Okay, I lost it. I think I closed it, not minimized it. Never mind. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to see this live. Also, huge thanks to all the people who are supporting my work financially. And if you, dear viewer, would like to join them, please go to patreon.com/anfa or liberape.com/anfa. Now go and get the new software and make some music with it. Have fun. Bye.